Hi paper crafters, welcome to another Design with Joe video. I'm Joanne Rogers, a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Central Alberta, Canada, and I've been designing with you in mind since 1999. Today's video is an edited version of a live recording. Enjoy! It is time to take one of the designs out of a Stampin' Up! Catalog, and today is out of the holiday catalog, and I'm going to take some of the mystery away because sometimes we see beautiful things by the Stampin' Up! Artists, and sometimes we don't know how to make them. So I'm going to show you today how to make one of them, and I always give you some alternatives so that you can picture them maybe using things that you have in your own set of stamps or ones that will work very similarly. There's all kinds of tips and tricks on this one. It's a very artsy card, so that's going to give you maybe a little bit of a hint as we get going. Okay, so we are going to be making one of these cards here, very similar to it, and if this is the first Case the Cattie that you've ever watched, I don't make the card exactly, meaning I don't use the stamp set or maybe even the colors that Stampin' Up! Used. But I show you how you can make an alternate, so really you get this card plus a whole bunch of other cards that you can make with this technique or with this design. I'm not going to be using this set. This is a set we used on Tuesday night, and it's called Pretty Pumpkins. So there is the stamp set. It's got gorgeous, gorgeous images on it, and I love the words. Just, you know, brush lettering, it does it for me. So this is sort of a brush lettering, a cursive style. And then these are the dies that go along with it. So there's a few that cut out the stamp images themselves, and then there's a couple that are just, not just a couple, there's actually 5 that are different ones not in the stamp set. So that's the one here, but we're going to be using a different set and we're going to make a Christmas card. So let's get started. Now, before we start, this is a messy card. So it's more of an artsy card. So I want to show you what I use to protect my work area. And so if you go to the dollar store, you can find these. When we were in a calligraphy class, and I think it was, I have to credit to my friend Christine and Barb, they use them underneath their surface whenever we have ink or paint or something like that. And so I pulled it out, and what it is, you've got 14, so quite a few, and you can use these over again. So they are just like, I don't know how many of you train your puppies this way, but there's just an absorbent piece there. And I'm just going to put that up that way so that I protect my surface. And then I'm also going to use my sheet that I think we decided came from, was it a Tim Holtz thing? So that, and you can see that I'm starting to get mine a lot more dirty, and I'm wearing an apron today. So that's what you want to think about when you are making this technique. So we're going to start with Whisper White paper. Okay, no, I'm sorry, it's not Whisper White. This is Shimmery White paper. And our Shimmery White paper is, it's a little bit, it's not even thicker, but it's made of a different consistency. And I think that it's just a little more soft, more absorbent than our basic white. And it also has some really pretty shimmer in it that I'm hoping you're able to catch on the camera. And I've cut this piece down to 4 by 5 1/4, and I might even make it a little bit bigger. I may have made this a bit too small. But what we're going to do first with this is we are going to stamp on it. And I'm going to stamp, and I'm going to do a landscape. We're going to be using the Merry Snowflakes stamp set. So this one is a one that I didn't think I needed another set of snowflakes. And then I started seeing it and I thought, oh, this is great. I think maybe I am going to start using it get it because it's got different designs from what I have right now. But what I really, really liked about it is the dies. So these are the dies that go along with it. Let me pull that out this way. They're called Stitch Snowflakes, and they stitch around the image and they stitch so that it's left in the paper. So when you cut it out, you have stitching and a hole there in the shape of that snowflake. I also really liked this here. So Stampin' Up! Is doing a few more of these type where these cut into the paper, but they don't cut out the paper. So they create a design in the background of the paper. And I quite like that they're starting to introduce a few more of these. And then look at all the snowflakes you do get. You get 4 here. So I like the set. I held off for a while, but I did get it. So I'm just going to move that off to the side. So I have a few of those stamps already mounted. And we're going to use our Stays On ink. So the Stays On ink is one that's going to be permanent on here, and it's going to dry really, really quickly and not move once we add water. So we're just going to stamp randomly. And why we're doing this to start with is if you do it afterwards, you could have a bit of a crinkled up piece of paper. And it's always harder to stamp then. I think I'll do the next bigger one. And when you have that, you have to pull out your Stamparatus in order to stamp on it. So this way I can stamp first, and then I can do my coloring on top of it. And that's why the Stays On is so great for this. Do this guy here. So just ink it up really well. Okay, and then you've got your piece. So you can, if you clean your stamps really, really quickly, this will stain your stamps for sure. And it's not recommended for use with our photopolymer. But if you clean them really, really quickly, they will come clean. So I'm just going to clean those off now, just with my simple chamois that is looks like it's very dirty, but it's not really. It is just well used and well loved. Okay, so now we have our piece. Now we have the fun part. So we are going to be using ink refills again today, and I've already got 2 colors already in my Stampin' Spritzers. So this is Bermuda Bay, and this is Rich Razzleberry, and I'm going to add Shaded Spruce. So I have one that doesn't have any color in it, and I'm going to open it up, and I am just going to add a few drops. Now you do want to add some drops in here because you want intensity of color. So I'm going to actually add about 6 drops. Now before I do that, I just have maybe, what's that? About 3/4 of an inch of water in here. And that might actually even be a little too much, but I'm going to go with it. Okay, so now I'm going to add some drops. You can do that right inside there. If you want to wear gloves, you can, but hey, that's half the fun of stamping, right? Is getting your hands dirty and inky. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to, well, 8, because it wanted to drop off there. So I've got 8. Put your top back in, and then just give it a little sort of shake around so that it really does mix well with the water. So we've created a really intense color of ink there. I'm just going to also put the lid on that. Okay, so what we're going to do, I'm going to start with my Bermuda Bay, I think. So always with these, I have a little arrow to tell me to point it away from my face. And all we're going to do is give it a spritz. And I am just going to spritz sort of in this direction. It just works well for me, but you don't have to. In fact, maybe I won't. Maybe I'll go this way today. So let's put a little bit of color on here. So I'm spritzing and moving at the same time. Okay, so just a little bit on there. I'm going to go in with my Rich Razzleberry, same thing. Okay, and you can put as much or as little as you want. And I'm going to go in. Oh, one thing you do want to do with the green is you want to get it going first. There we go. Okay, so I've got some color there. Now we're going to dry that. Now normally I don't dry, but for this technique and looking at what Stampin' Up! Did, I think I want to dry that. And you know what I probably should have done? I probably should have put this onto my board. In fact, I have one on my board. I'll show you in just a minute. So I'm going to heat it with my heat tool. You can heat from the front. You can heat from the back, whatever you like. What you're going to do is just get some of those wet pieces dry. So you're going to have, you can see where it's dried here and created a little river. That's okay. The reason why I'm drying it is we're going to do another technique on top. So what we're going to do on top, see, I had this all ready to go and then I totally forgot to show you. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take just our smallest acrylic block and our Whisper White. So this Whisper White is, I'm just going to shake it a little bit, is a different type of ink. So this is a very opaque ink. So meaning that you really can't see through it. All the rest of our inks are water-based, and you can see through them basically. So what we're doing here is I've just added a couple little drops, and I'm going to add some water using my water painter. So this is just the smallest one out of the set of 3, and I want the brush tip. So I'm just going to add just a little bit of water here, and then I'm going to mix it together. So I want it to be a little runnier than what was coming straight out of the bottle. Now this is the fun part where this is why I have an apron on. So I'm just going to tap this, and I'm going to get some blotches all over. Some are going to be bigger than others. Okay, so you can see them. Now, if you do this while it's still wet, it just sort of sinks right in. So I'm just going to clean this off here. Just going to run water right through it. And after we're done, I did a few of these yesterday, and I just kept working with it. It didn't get hard or anything, but I will take this and I'll clean everything off after we're done. So let's put that to the side. So now set that aside and let it dry. I found that I didn't like drying these with the heat tool. I'm going to put that aside and pull in this one, which already I have done. And this one, you can see it was still a little bit wet. That's what I mean by it sort of moved out a little bit. There's one more technique I want to put on top of here, and it is using your Stampin Blends. So this Stampin Blend is the dark Bermuda Bay, and this is how you can get some splatter technique. So I normally don't like to do this. It's almost, it hurts me a little bit because I don't like to damage the tip of my blends. So you may. So you want to be a little gentle, but you have to give it a little bit of a flick. Otherwise, you're not going to get any on there. No, this will be permanent. So that's why we want to make sure that our area is protected. So you flick and point it at your paper. Okay, and see, you can get some color go on top of it right away. So it just gives you a little different look and a little bit of splatter, and it will go right on there. And this is the light Blackberry Bliss. Okay, now we're going to set that aside, let it dry. I'm just going to clean up a bit, and I'm going to pull that one in and work with it. Okay, so we are pretty much done with, I'll just leave it all there. And so we're done with all of the artsy kind of thing. And now I want to show you how to put together the rest of the card. So I'm going to pull in a piece of, this is Pool Party. So let me pull in, first of all, before I do that, let me pull in the catalog again so you can see, okay? So we are going to be making a card very similar to this one right here. So this is the background. And you can see that in the background, they have black stamped images, and then they have different color. So that's what we've got so far. Okay, now we're going to create the rest of the card. So we are going to stamp with the largest stamp out of that set. And we're going to use Pool Party ink because we want lighter than what we have here. If we did it with our Bermuda Bay, it would be just a little bit too dark. So go ahead and stamp that. Then we're going to do another little technique. We are going to take the Merry Everything stamp out of that set, and I just want the Merry because I want that to go right over top. So I've just taken a piece of tape, just your regular Scotch tape or cello tape, and put that right over top of the Everything. I'm going to ink up the Merry. Take my tape off. So I did this in a tip video, I think just a couple weeks ago, but it really is a great tip. You can do this with markers or like I just did. And then I'm just going to stamp my Merry right over top. Try and get that straight. Not bad. We're going to use this die to cut that out. Okay, we're not going to use the inside of the die, but we're just going to use that die. And I have already cut one out, and it's right there. The next step is that in behind there, so in behind the image that they have, there's a piece of vellum. And the vellum, if you look really closely, in fact, I didn't even notice it at first, it has stitching marks all the way around the outside. So the stitching that this particular one is from is called Nature's Thoughts, I think is the name of it. And I do have that one, but I wanted to use a different one. I'm using this one, which is out of the Stitched with Whimsy. And why I'm using this one is I like the size of it a little bit better because my snowflake is not as big as the pumpkin is. So it's going to sit right on top inside these little stitching marks. And these are ones, again, like the snowflakes right here, they cut into, but they don't cut out. So I'm hoping that you can see that. It's all the way around the outside, just like if you took a marker and did sort of a wavy line around the outside. I'm hoping you can see that. Now, the other thing we need to do is there's some ribbon there. And it's quite thick ribbon, and I have that ribbon, but I thought for the card we were doing, it might be a little bit too bold. So I pulled in my Fresh Freesia ribbon, and I thought, well, yeah, I could use that ribbon, but I think it needs to be just a little bit darker. So I took the Blackberry Bliss and I colored this ribbon, and it made it a little bit darker. So it's got more of the tones that will go with our paper. So that's where we're using our Stampin Blends in a couple different places on this card. Okay, so we're getting all of our pieces. Now the last, I'm gonna, well, not quite the last, we have our card, and I'm gonna put it onto Rich Razzleberry. And I've already put tear and tape on the back. So your paper is a little bit, I did have this one taped down, but it still will be a little bit bowed. You could put it under a book or something, but the tear and tape is strong enough that once you put it down on top of your card, it will hold it in place. So you don't have to worry too much about getting that straightened out. And it helps a little bit when you do put it down onto that wooden. And I talked a little bit about that on Tuesday night in our On Command Crafting, which you can watch over at Design with Jo VIPeeps. It is a private Facebook group that anybody can join, and we would love to have more people join in. And we do live crafting classes, and you learn a bunch of stuff every week. So I'm just going to put this down right on top. It's just a little bit smaller than my card. So there's that. Now I'm going to put my vellum right over top. So even though you did some of that stamping in behind there, it will peek out from behind the vellum. So to get that to stick, this is going to be covering up our vellum. So vellum always shows through glue. So I am going to put my glue on here, if I can get it to come out. There we go. I'm getting to the bottom of this bottle, I think. And I'm just going to place that right over top, trying to get the same amount on the top of space on the top, the bottom, and the sides. So it's not going to be even all the way around. A little bit more down here. You still have a little bit of time to move that around. And I'm just going to place that down and give it a nice press. Now you're not going to see that because that's sort of ugly, because that's going to be covered up by our snowflake. But before we can do that, we have to put some ribbon on. So I'm going to use our mini glue dots, and our ribbon is just going to go in place right from one side to the other. And this way. So I haven't made my ribbon exactly the same length. The one in the picture is a lot more the same length. So there's that. Now before I glue this down, I already have dimensionals on the back. The other elements that I brought in were a few more snowflakes. So I cut some snowflakes, and I cut them out of the rainbow glimmer paper. Now if you have never seen this paper, let me just find it for you. It is one that you sort of notice it in the catalog here, at least I think you do, but you may not be sure how to use it. So it comes like this, 2 pieces in a package that are 12 by 12. And look at the gradation of different colors. So I have cut one out down here, sort of like that, I guess. Another one up here, so it's going into the purples. And then I've done one in the same color of cardstock because I really wanted that shimmer. Okay, so that's where you can find that there. And I think what I want to do, so let me show you the catalog again. So we're using it for the idea, but we're not necessarily going to be making it the same. And I do have another 2 ideas to show you after this. So it's got some leaves here. So I want my snowflakes to be down here as well, but I think I'm going to put them in behind. This one's pretty big, so I only want him peeking out a little bit. And if I wanted to, I could probably take some off there. And then maybe I'm going to put one down here and maybe one so that they are sort of all grouped together. Okay, and you've got some different colors there. So in order to do that, I'm going to glue this guy down first. And I did not use adhesive sheets on this. So we'll just add some liquid glue here. So that's going to go in quite a ways because I only want that little bit sticking out. So that liquid glue will set up and fit on there perfectly. This one we're going to leave to the ends. We're going to take our dimensionals off our snowflake. So there were a lot of different techniques on this card. And I don't think I realized that when I was first looked at it. But I thought once I started, like, oh yeah, there's a lot of techniques. That wasn't over far enough. That's why I picked it up. So it wasn't quite in the center. So now it's more in the center. We're going to glue this guy down so that he's a little bit on top there. Over to the left. And the last one is just going to go down here. So this last one, I don't know if you noticed, it is this snowflake right here. And I've cut off the ends because I wanted it to be a little bit smaller. Okay, so I'm just going to leave that. Now, the cards do not have any bling on them. There's no rhinestones. There's nothing on there, but I think we need to put some on. I'm going to put them on top of our glimmer paper. And when I do that on top of the glimmer paper, there's one here that will stick no problem. On top of the glimmer paper, I will give it a little dab of glue before I put it on, just to help it set and stay. And then try not to do what I just did, which is dump it on top of there. So there's that, and we'll put one more maybe here, and then another couple up here. One there, and maybe a guy over here. Okay, so there is your card. Okay, so somebody is going to win this card. So they are really pretty once you get going with them, but you do need to, what I would do is make a bunch of these backgrounds to start with, and you can see how much that glimmer paper or the shine is coming out of the shimmery white. So there's one card. Now I want to show you another couple. So let me just move things out of the way a little bit. So there's one, and here's another. And the interesting thing is that I used exactly the same colors of paint on this one, but in different proportions. So this one here has more green, and I've used shaded spruce in behind. You can see the blue here, but I didn't use very much. And I used the definitely dahlias? No, delicate dahlias. So this is the delicate dahlias. So the background is done with the open line stamps, and the foreground is done with the solid stamps. So just the flower. And I cut this out by hand. So this one I fussy cut because there is not a set of dies that will go with. The third one is one here done with totally different colors. So these colors here were Melon Mambo and Flirty Flamingo and Mango Melody. So those were my colors. And I did something a little bit different here with this butterfly. So instead of just stamping it, so these guys here, you might notice these are a lighter color than the rest of the card. Okay, so that you can see them. This one, I did much the same technique on watercolor paper using the same colors in the that I used in the background. Okay, so those give you some different ideas on how to take that technique, and there's lots of artsy kinds of things in the background there, how to take that technique and change them up so that you have some great cards to play with and send out to people. What I always do is I edit this video and I post it up on YouTube so you can share it with your friends. Please go ahead and share and follow the video. I love when you do that. And also think about joining in the VIPs if you're not currently a VIP member. So I will see you again next week, and I'm hoping to see more of you on Tuesday night as well when we do On Command Crafting. So have a great weekend, everybody. I hope you get some crafting in. Bye-bye.